Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. Today we're doing kind of an update on the C.Ward C60 600 Trident. So now I actually do have the full bracelet to review with the updated clasp. So this one will be hopefully a little bit quicker, but I want to make sure to hit a couple key points. I actually put my my old blue C60 in frame here and put it on the original bracelet so we could really do a real one-to-one comparison. Something to address really quickly. I know that in the studio lights, the blue looks really bright, and that's probably something that you've also seen on some of the pictures that you'll find online. It's a really bright blue, but for those of you that might be a little bit turned away, it actually is a good bit darker. I know it doesn't really look like that right now under these studio lights. I think well lit, it gets brighter, of course, because it's not metallic. It'll just absorb the light and reflect it back. But that bezel, I'd say, is actually quite a bit darker, and the dial is a little bit, I'd say a little bit darker, and more of a true blue, with no real hints of any purple. So I'd say 9 times out of 10, honestly, this watch is going to look a lot darker, especially if you're indoors. So just, you know, if you're thinking right now, you're looking at it, you're like, wow, that is too bright, and it looks almost cartoonish. Don't worry, it actually is not that bright. So let's just jump right into this. So of course, C.Ward, they're a London based boutique brand. I'm going to try to resist calling them a micro brand because I think they have actually stepped up their game enough to where I would consider them boutique. So, you know, it's more limited in nature because of their quality and not necessarily just because of their ability. So it's a dive watch, of course, water resistance. I mean, the water resistance is great. You know, tough, legible, screw down crown, dive bezel, dive extension. All of these things you'll definitely find in a C60 Trident Pro. This is the 42 millimeter model. The retail price is anywhere from $825 to $915. With the bracelet is with $915. I was able to get it this year with the 25% discount, which is great. So if you're part of that mailing club, or you've purchased from C.Ward in the past, I'm sure you've all tried to take advantage of that sale. So that was really great. Got it this piece, you know, 600 and some change. The diameter is 42 millimeters, and you'll see some stuff online that's between 42 and 43. Sometimes you'll see things listed. I think actually the bezel, I'd say, is actually 43 millimeters, and the case is 42. So the bezel is slightly larger, I want to say. It was one or the other. I'm not going to bust out the caliper or anything, but you know, it's a little bit. It is a little bit larger, and I think that's why they kind of get away with having the 38 model, because the 38 actually wears a little bit larger as well, but I think I stick with the 42 because of the height isn't too far different, and I think and the proportions are better on the larger case, because it does have a 13.3 millimeter height. Of course, it uses 316L surgical stainless steel, which is marine grade. The crystal itself is 3.4 millimeters thick. It's sapphire. You know, it's flat with a nice AR coating. On the inside, the bezel is unidirectional. So it rotates one direction, which is great for timing. And then, you know, it has that great zirconia ceramic insert, lume 12 o'clock pip, screw down crown signed. The movement is either 2824 from ETA or an SW200 TAC 1. It just really depends on what they have available. In my mind, I honestly, I kind of prefer if there was an SW200 in there versus an ETA. So for a couple of different reasons, but I mean, I don't mind either, but I don't see the SW200 as as just a kind of a lower clone, or it's like not as great of an option. I think they both they're equal, and they kind of have their trade-offs. Each one is there are some benefits to having either movement. So I'll leave it at that. I don't think there's an inferior movement or a lead movement when it comes to the ETA 2824 versus the Sellita SW200. So the case back, solid, stamped, of course, dial in hands, and loom, it has that gouache wave pattern, applied indices, date complication at 3 versus the previous one, which was kind of a little bit after 4, not really centered. A lot of people didn't really like that. I think it was nice. I don't hate it. I think at 3, of course, it does look better. I think it could have looked really good at 6 as well. C1 Swiss Super Luminova, right? And then it also actually does have C3 here at the pip, and then these little outer markings you'll see that are just printed onto the dial. So it does have solid end links. It has actually a pin and collar linking system. So that makes it, if you're sizing it yourself, it's going to be a little bit harder, but it's also going to be sturdier as well. It has a new quick adjust clasp. It kind of replaces the diver's extension, and honestly, I think of the clasp as being more of a quick adjust versus a diver extension clasp. It really just depends on kind of how you can get it to fit in your wrist size. For me, I think it's really great as a quick adjust. So let's just take a quick look here. Oh, actually, let me zoom out. Take a quick look, kind of side by side, maybe catch the light. So as you can see, I mean, if you haven't heard yet, this watch is, the updated version is just built so much better. I mean, not that this was a slouch. I mean, this was really, really great. Especially for the price. I mean, there have been some increases, of course. They doubled the water resistance. They're using ceramic. They have a different manufacturer now that's putting these cases and machining them to just much tighter tolerances. Everything just feels, I mean, I'd say the new version here, I mean, this this original C60 I think was a really great contender. And something that I would compare to, like, let's say a Certina DS Action Diver. I think as it came, it was very comparable. I think here now, with the updated version, as this comes, it is, this is really comparable to an Oris Aquis, which is kind of one of my favorite divers in this price range, and is, I think in a way it's kind of my signature watch, just considering how much I wear the Aquis. So this is not a slouch, but this is just the next level, right? It's not just a different design. I mean, everything about this watch is better and improved. So the main thing here that we didn't cover in the last review is the bracelet. So I mean, you honestly, this previous bracelet, you really couldn't ask for much more. It's produced really nicely already, but in the updated model, it does, I'd say there's a negligible, I mean, the brushing looks nicer, I'd say. I mean, I don't know if the camera's going to pick that up, but I'd say it's more uniform. I mean, the polished is what it is. It's polished, the edges are still nice and crisp, but here you'll see the clasp is actually slightly different size now. It's a little bit longer, and it's to accommodate the updated clasp. So let's look at the old clasp action here. I thought that this is kind of where the watch was a little bit let down. It has, kind of the older wetsuit extension there. Nothing fancy. It definitely has, this is still, this push button is actually still much nicer than a lot of watches you'll find that are a lot more expensive. So no slouch. But the cool thing now is, ever so nonchalantly, Christopher Ward has actually updated the clasp with this really cool extension here. So I don't know if you can see this, but basically this little guy here, I might have to take my gloves off for this, but since everything's polished, I didn't want to get any fingerprints. But so what I'll do is I'll see if I can just show it like this. So basically now you can see that it's very similar to a glide lock. And then this, you just use your thumb here and you pull it out. You get your sizing, 1 click, two clicks, 3, 4. And mine is normally 1, 2. And I can get pretty much perfect fit on that. So let's get this on the wrist. So as you can see, you know, the new clasp is a little bit longer, but you know, I think it looks good and it fits really nicely, and I can adjust it on the fly. So if my wrist gets a little bit more swollen, you know, throughout the day, I can loosen it, which is nice. I'm a real nut for kind of that perfect fit, you know, and there are no half links on here, so it's really nice, and I really do use this, and I adjust it, you know, throughout the day when I wear it, you know, a click or two in either direction. Unfortunately, with it pushed all the way in and an extra link, it was still a little bit too loose, so I had to take out a link, and now essentially, you know, I'm 2 clicks in, so it's kind of that halfway in between point. But yeah, I mean, I'm gonna put it down here because I feel like whenever you do like a wristy, it just makes the watch look huge. But I think once you know, get a little space between, you can actually get a better idea of what this looks like on person versus just, you know, a close-up of a watch. So as you can see, I mean, just stunning quality, amazing piece. I mean, I'm gonna be kind of doing another update video where it's really going to be the C60 Trident versus the World, in a way, and I'm going to put it up against, you know, the DS Action Diver from Certina, the Longines Hydro Conquest, the Oris Aquis, and the Rado D-Star 200, which are kind of my blue diving team there, and just, you know, kind of see where this updated version lands. I mean, now that it has a you know, a bracelet that is worthy of the case and the dial and the, you know, and the rest of the watch, you know, I'd say now that it's stepped that game up, you know, it just kind of takes it up a notch. So of course we couldn't end this without a little, I guess, a little loom off here. So let's see if we can get in close enough so I can still, so we can get some nice close-up of the loom here. All right, cool. All right, so I mean, if you guys want a more in-depth look of at the updates on the C60, go ahead and look through my library. There's I have the white dialed model also, and that's the one that I reviewed basically, and I kind of went on very in depth as far as the differences in the build, you know, and kind of my thoughts on every upgrade and every update to the watch. This one was more so just kind of more brief, kind of round up, and, you know, really just finally giving it a full review, in that I'm now reviewing the updated bracelet and clasp combination, which I think is great. So let's go ahead and close this with a loom shot. And as you can see, you know, the new C60 just blows the old one out of the water. And not that the old one, you know, it wasn't, I wouldn't call it bad loom. Honestly, I've seen worse and more expensive watches. It's just, there's not a lot of loom there, you know. So it was kind of doing what it was working with. And you'll see some people have taken pictures and that thing will look like a torch, right? Like in the right situation, stuck up against, you know, an LED flashlight for a while, you can take a picture and it'll look really good. But as you can see, it's starting to fade, right? Because it's just a really thin, I mean, although very precise, the layer of lume is just so thin on the previous model. So that's why you're seeing it fade really quickly. And that's kind of, you know, where there's a little bit of confusion. Some people are like, oh man, I thought that thing had great lume from the pictures. But yeah, people are taking a picture and it's all super charged up. As you can see here, for the updated C60, it's, you know, there's not a lot of lume there, but what is there is good, right? So, you know, as you can see now, all you're seeing is kind of the mini micro dots that are printed onto the dial with the C3 on the old one. There, the hands are still burning bright, but dim in comparison to the update. And then same thing for the pip. Look at that, pip's just dying out. So, you know, I think Christopher Ward definitely made changes in all the right places, and I gotta say this watch is a beast. So if you had any reservations about buying the Christopher Ward C60, I mean, I think those are all kind of smashed now. So, you know, closing with the Clasp updates, this watch is really the total package. It really solidifies its place as, you know, kind of bang per buck king. It's definitely more versatile than its Swiss contemporaries, you know, the Oris Aquis and the D-Star 200. You know, they have proprietary lugs. And then the Hydro Conquest and the DS Action, they have 21 millimeter lugs. You know, and of course for the 42 model, you get 22 millimeter or 20 millimeter for the 38. So I mean, now NATOs and any type of bands, mesh, whatever, you can switch those out, you know, and you can, it just makes the watch more versatile. And of course it has a great amount of variants, you know, there's 42, there's 38, there's automatic, there's quartz, they have an in-house chronometer, there's a GMT, which I'm hoping to get my hands on next year and do a review of that. Comparable models, you know, it's tough to find something that's comparable. Let's say, of course, the Steinhardt Ocean, probably one of the more premium models, is what you would want to compare it to, which you can get cheaper. But honestly, you know, those designs are a little bit more derivative. There is a titanium Ocean Premium right now that's pretty nice, 500 meter water resistant, but the titanium is just really dark looking, and the finishing, the tolerances just aren't comparable to the updated C60. And actually Christopher Ward sent a little teaser out in one of their magazines that there is a titanium C60 coming, so I look forward to seeing that and reviewing that. You know, you could probably compare this to the Turbulent Lawless, like I mentioned before, which is a German brand, which really decorated, you know, little cool ornate features to it. You know, like the case back is really nice, and the movement's really nice, but the watch itself, again, a little bit more derivative. I'd say it's more of a Tudor, Pelagos homage kind of piece, versus this, you know, it kind of really stands on its own now, with the changes. It is now very comparable with the Tag Heuer Aqua Racer. And, you know, there's a brand new models, you know, that just came out, with the kind of cooler updated dial, and it almost looks a little bit, Oris like, for the new Aqua Racer. But the previous generation Aqua Racer that had that really bright blue 500 meter, I mean, I'd say they're very comparable now, but I think really in pretty much every way, the Christopher Ward has it beat, and it's cheaper. So, you know, you might not get the name, but for the previous model Aqua Racer, I'd say hands down I'd pick the Christopher Ward. For the new Aqua Racer that just came out, I'm on the fence. I'm considering it for 2016, so we'll see. So really, to close this out, the bottom line is I mean, this is the best Swiss-made boutique diver, maybe the best overall diver under $1,000. It's that good. So you know, I think you've seen quite a few reviews for the Christopher Ward C60, and I really can't think of a negative one, especially for this new trim. So there's a reason, and it is good. So You don't have to take my word for it, just search YouTube. But if you like this particular video, make sure you hit like, and please subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks.
Let it go.